On the Autocar show today, the BMW X1 takes on the Audi Q3, a taste of the Suzuki Gixxer Cup and more drag action from Autocar UK.
It's a hot day here on the outskirts of Mumbai, and to go with the mood, we've lined up a hot contest. We've brought together the Audi Q3 and the all-new BMW X1. Now, the last time we compared the small luxury SUVs, it was the Audi Q3 that ran away with top honors. It did well just about everywhere, and that's why it impressed us. But the competition promises to be a whole lot closer this time around. The X1 is very different to its predecessor and is a far more rounded package. Question is it the better SUV? Time to find out. The new X1 is very different to the model it has replaced, because where the old X1 was built on a rear-wheel drive platform, this one is built on BMW's new front-wheel drive platform and also positions its engine transversely. The original X1 station wagon-like look is gone, and what you get now is a taller, more upright X1 that looks like a shrunken X5, which is no bad thing. The Q3 has been around for a while, but Audi has done well to update the look. The single-piece grille that links the Q3 to the new Q7 has also added much personality to the design, and the top-spec version's LED headlights look nice and distinctive too. I won't take a call on the exterior styling, but I can tell you the X1 has the more inviting cabin. The X1's dashboard sticks to BMW's template, but it is smartly turned out. Also, thanks to the low cowl, you get a great view out. This X-Line version's 6.5-inch screen isn't the largest, but the infotainment system is easier to use and also has the better interface. The cabin feels airy with a crucial few additional centimeters of width. Still, the X1's interiors are not perfect. Some plastics low down feel scratchy, the gear lever looks old school and is also a touch too high, and the front seats aren't all that generous in size. The Q3 has the nicer front seats and also has the edge in overall cabin quality. And it must be said, last year's update that added silver accents to the cabin has also worked to jazz up the Q3's otherwise simple dashboard. You sit at a nice height in the Q3, visibility is good, and there's also a useful screen in the instrument's binnacle that relays navigation instructions. The central screen on the dash displays all the infotainment options you'll need, but unfortunately today the interface doesn't appear all that modern. And after a stint in the X1, the cabin also feels a bit cozier than I'd like. But let's get moving and get straight into how they perform. First up is the X1 that uses BMW's latest 2-litre diesel engine and makes a strong 190 horsepower and 400 Newton meters. An 8-speed automatic gearbox is standard fit, and X-Drive versions as this one channel power to all 4 wheels when needed. If you own the first X1 and you drive this one, the first thing you'll notice is how much quieter the engine is. But is it quieter than the Audi's engine? No, not quite. Because when you load it up, it still grumbles a bit. The X1's motor also doesn't feel all that lively in the lower reaches of the rev range. Around 1000 to 1500 RPM, you can tell that it's not as alert as the Q3's engine, but it's post 2000 RPM that the X1 engine really comes alive. There's a solid dose of power right through the mid-range that leads into the top end, and you can happily rev the engine to 4000, 4500 and beyond. In fact, if you put it in sports mode, put dynamic traction control off and operate the gearbox through the paddle shifts or the gear lever manually, it will even let you hold revs at 5500 RPM. The X1 could have been better still had the gearbox been a bit more fluid. That's because this is actually a whole different gearbox that is meant for front-wheel drive applications. At times there's a small delay between gear shifts, but in normal driving you really won't have much of a problem. In fact, the gearbox is also quite responsive to tugs at the pedals and also equally responsive to shifts on the gear lever. Looking solely at power and torque figures, the Q3 is on the back foot. Its 2-litre engine makes 177 HP and 380 Nm, both of which are less than the X1's numbers. The Quattro all-wheel drive equipped Q3 is also a good 100 kgs heavier than the X1. Despite not having launch control like the X1 does, the Q3 is just 0.3 seconds slower in the 0 to 100 kph dash. And there's really little between them through the gears too. But there are differences in the way the BMW and Audi produce their power.
The X1 sort of bunches up its power after 2000 RPM. The Q3 is different in that sense because it gives you access to power right from the get-go. You can drive along smoothly at city speeds, press down harder for an overtake, and you have more power. Again, 2000 RPM onwards is where it's at, even in the Q3, and performance is really strong. But the thing is, the Q3 delivers its power in a more progressive and more friendly manner in a sense. And that's one of the reasons why the Q3 is a little bit easier to drive, at least in town.
Pushing hard in the Q3 also reveals the engine's entertaining free revving side, and that the engine is a bit more polished too. As I drive on, I realize the two are quite close on ride and handling too. The BMW first.
Simply put, it's not as engaging as the old X1 was, but it's not bad in the least because you still get a good feeling of connection at the steering wheel. There's a nice weight to the steering, it turns in well, the handling is neutral, and there's overall a nice balance and agility to the car. It still remains the driver's SUV amongst the small luxury SUVs.
Not to say that the Q3 is too far behind in handling.
The Audi Q3 is also quite an entertaining car to drive. There's plenty of grip, so you can carry a whole lot of speed into corners. Of course, the Quattro system is to thank for this, but it's not quite as exciting as the X1. And as we've said for a whole lot of Audis in the past, the steering is the weak link here. It's got this bit of looseness, which just doesn't give you that same sense of connect and just keeps you at arm's length from the action.
The Q3 claws back with the better ride quality.
Now, one area where the Q3 has an edge over the X1 is in terms of ride comfort. Now, it's not far superior to the BMW, but you can tell that it is more composed at just about every speed. There's little of that bobbing and pitching that you might get in the X1, and generally less vertical movement on the whole.
The X1 is an improvement over the older X1, but it's still not perfect.
The suspension seems better tuned to the Indian conditions. The new generation of run flat tires also are a lot more absorbent. In fact, at both high speeds and low speeds, it feels a whole lot nicer than before. But the only thing is that there is still a little bit of twitchiness, a little bit of vertical movement at all speeds, and it never really goes away. But it's never to the point of being uncomfortable.
It's an even match off-road too. Neither of these SUVs are meant for hardcore off-roading. They don't have the tires or the ground clearance, but show them a broken trail and they'll take you quite far. Okay, so both the Audi and BMW make for fun cars to drive, but how are they for your passengers?
The X1's backseat is a rather nice place to be. Now, I'm just under 6 feet tall. Selvin, who's driving, is just under 6 feet tall too. And as you can tell, there's plenty of space for me to spread out. I'm sitting quite comfortably. I like the seating position. It's nice and upright. And there's also enough space to fit in a third passenger, which is not something you can do in the Q3 with all that much comfort. Another thing that I really like about the X1 is that it gives you the option to adjust the backrest angle. So you can just sit back and relax, and honestly speaking, if you have to be chauffeur driven, this is the car you'd want to be in.
And to be honest, the Audi cedes ground in this section of the comparison.
The first impression that you get when you sit in the back of the Q3 is that this is a far more confined space. You just don't get that sense of space that you get in the X1. Now take for instance legroom. Now legroom isn't bad, but it's down on the X1. The cabin's width is just sufficient for two. And headroom, though I'm not having a problem, you can tell Audi has cleverly scooped this out just to create a few more millimeters. The seat itself is comfortable, but there's no backrest adjust and no center armrest either.
Things get skewed further in the BMW's favor when we bring in the price and features into the equation. The X1 X-Drive in X-Line trim costs 36.99 lakh rupees ex-showroom Delhi and gets most of what you'd want on your SUV. Opt for the M Sport version that costs 40.9 lakh rupees and you'll get an X1 with a sportier body kit, larger infotainment screen with navigation and even heads-up display. Sadly, a reverse camera is not offered on any version of the X1. The Q3 in technology trim costs 39.8 lakh rupees and again offers plenty for the money. However, the options are expensive and if you want a navigation system for instance, be prepared to pay an additional 2.75 lakh rupees. Fully loaded, the Q3 costs over 42 lakh rupees, which is a whole lot of money for a small SUV. So, how does it all pan out then?
We were promised a close contest and that's exactly what we got. Allow me to start with the Audi Q3. Now as ever, it's a very likable SUV with a long list of strengths. It looks smart, it's got high quality interiors and the engine offers punchy performance. There's also plenty of equipment on board. But when you see the Q3 in light of the X1, suddenly you'll take a very critical view of it. All of a sudden, the cabin doesn't feel as spacious as it should be and the driving experience doesn't come across as exciting. And that's the thing. BMW has really aced the new X1. For starters, it looks like a shrunken X5. It's got very modern interiors. It's great to drive, it's spacious enough so that you'll enjoy the chauffeur-driven experience and it just generally feels fresher in every sense. Thankfully, BMW has also been very sensible with pricing. So when you put it all together, the X1 really comes across as the new benchmark among small luxury SUVs.
It was just a little over a year ago that we came to the Kari Motor Speedway for our first date with Suzuki's Gixxer Cup. This one-make series is now heading into its second season and this year things are really getting ramped up because Suzuki will be giving 10 riders between the ages of 13 to 17 to prove themselves, of which 2 have the opportunity of breaking through to the world stage.
It's a direct ticket to MotoGP. We teach the kids the basics of racing. So after 3 rounds, we will select 2 kids who have the talent, the skill and the potential to get to the level of Moto3. So once we select 2 of them, we send these kids to Spain for the Red Bull Rookie Cup selection. If these guys do well there and they get selected, they do the full season of the 2017 Red Bull Rookie Cup. They will have a personal trainer, personal mentor. It's like a factory ride.
And what will the riders be tested on? Well, it is the Gixxer SF bike which is taking its racing duties very seriously. The Cup bike is based on last year's race bike, but there are a few changes for 2016. The front fork has a brace now, which gives it more rigidity, and the foot pegs have been moved further back and up for greater cornering clearance. And of course, in keeping with the 2016 Gixxer road bike, there is a rear disc brake as well. But compared to the street bike, this race bike is some 20 kilograms lighter. The front suspension geometry is sharper, but the suspension settings are unchanged. The tires are race-spec MRF rubber with a radial rear, and the 155cc engine features a high-flow air filter, a retuned carburetor, and a free-flow exhaust. The seriousness of this package can be gauged by the interest in it.
People have been recognizing our effort here, and the neighboring countries like Malaysia and Sri Lanka, we are getting all the neighboring countries and other nationals to come and race with our kids. So the level of racing will definitely go up.
And to get a feel of the spirit of racing, we're being thrown into the deep end. Well, not really, because we're going to be going out on the track on these bikes.
The format was simple. We got 30 minutes to get comfortable with the Gixxer Cup bike and the track. Then we had a 20-minute session in which to clock the fastest lap time. As can be expected from this simple air-cooled and 2-valve engine, it isn't very rev-happy and the performance isn't red-hot either. As compared to last year, the front brake also felt a bit late in terms of its bite. But Suzuki say routine maintenance will fix it and there are hardware updates on the way.
Even a short time in the saddle of the Gixxer Cup bike tells you why it is a great motorcycle to start racing on. First and foremost, it's basically very confidence inspiring. The way the chassis is set up, the suspension, the tires, everything just inspires confidence. At the same time, it is a live clickable motorcycle. So a great bike to learn racecraft on how to attack corners, because at the end of the day it doesn't have all that much power, so you have to learn how to make the most of the speed that you have. What was the max that we hit down here? Well, on the straights we got an indicated 118 kph, and since this has altered gearing, it was actually 15% higher in terms of the actual speed.
I could whine on that I was too heavy for this class of motorcycle and the track was largely unknown to me. But if you do consider those points, you'll realize that the Gixxer Cup bike did a fantastic job of making me feel confident on it. At the end of the day, the result was quite satisfying, with the third fastest lap time of the day. It's easy to see how the Gixxer Cup is a great springboard for future racers from India. And hopefully we'll see one in the Red Bull Rookies Cup real soon.
Right, so this is a very interesting drag race. We have cylinders, pistons being driven by piston heads, and over there my colleague Matt in the electric appliance, where it's not really fair to call a Tesla an appliance. That is really a blinding piece of kit.
And here I am in my Tesla with launch control activated. It's not launch control, is it? It's just ready all the time. And there's no on and off in this car, which is bizarre. There is no, oh, hang on, now it's on. You just get in and it's good. You put it in D, put your belt on, and it's ready to go.
I've got 650 horsepower, 2 turbos, rear-driven wheels, and a greasy runway. What Tesla have you got there then?
PH5D, which has got insane.
Not ludicrous, just insane.
Yeah, not ludicrous, just insane. But it's what, 690, 670, 690? It's a lot of power. And I've got four-wheel drive, and I've got maximum acceleration from 0 RPM, and it's wet. So I will get away, but as it's a quarter mile, you might come back, I suppose.
You've got four-wheel drive, I didn't know that. Okay, well, that's this could be interesting.
Okay, lights in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
That is unbelievable. That is a tiny speck. Still a tiny speck. It's starting to get a bigger speck. Bit of bigger speck. But no, that is through a quarter mile. This thing is unbelievable. What a car.
I'm just going to cross over to the other side of the track. So if you can
well, that I didn't expect. I mean, I expected to get down off the line. I didn't expect to maintain it all the way down. It started to come back towards the end.
This is an important test for pistons and cylinders and internal combustion as the electric age looms.
Is it the future? It's part of it. There's something to quite like about this. Even as a car enthusiast, there's something to quite like about a car that makes no noise, emits nothing, but power.
Five, four, three, two, one.
Get me launch control on. That was cool. Could hear it through the... and I can still see it in the mirror. Oh, he's gaining a bit quicker this time. I have a feeling he might have just pipped this at the last. Dan, do you reckon you got in front of me then? Because it looked very close from here.
I think that was a photo finish, wasn't it?
Yeah, I reckon you came past me very quickly in the end, which surprised me because you were in the mirror, and all of a sudden you're out of the mirror and alongside me, and I think you might have just done it at the last, which is annoying. Dan, did you get noticeably less wheel spin that time?
I just kind of, once it started to wheel spin, I just lifted a fraction and then short shifted second, and it seemed to hook up again. And once I was in third, it just took off.
Yeah, because last time I noticed you sort of slowly gaining ground, but this time you would, well, what I say, by the time you were in third, you were absolutely flying.
Yeah, once it got third gear and some traction, we were away.
Right, I'll make that 1-1 in the damp. Let's try again.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Right, where is he? There he is in the mirror. He's not going as far into the mirror as I would like, but he's coming past, is past. Yeah, done it.
So there we go. A victory for pistons and internal combustion over the dastardly electrical appliance. I've got to say, the Tesla is pretty damn impressive, and as Matt was saying on the radio just now, he just has to press the pedal and go. I'm kind of having to balance wheel spin and gear changes and all the rest of it, and it's really quite difficult on these damp tarmac to get the car cleanly off the line. But when it does hook up, the Tesla is off for the first 100 yards or so, but after that, once you get up to about 60 miles an hour or so, third gear, the McLaren is away.
Right, go on, you're going to be annoying now, aren't you? Because on balance...
After a slightly faltering start when my launch control didn't quite get going.
Yeah, well, it's damp as well, isn't it? But when that got traction, there's no denying that it's the fastest. I mean, if this was completely dry, I think it would have beaten me every time.
I'd like to be magnanimous in victory, but I'm not
going to be.
I'm actually delighted that the internal combustion engine, with little help from some turbos and a few other bits and bobs, managed to defeat even insane acceleration.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I like I like internal combustion engines, I like pistons, I like all that nonsense. I just don't like being in a car that loses. But bear in mind, this is a 7-seat hatchback.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty good going. That is a supercar that should have won, really.
It should have done, and it did.
But they will make a faster one of these, so we'll be back and have another go.